attacked by on the internet by 2 scientists who told me I'm this, I'm that. I don't have the education to make assessments like this. And I mean, we're not stupid. People see it with their own eyes. Everyday people, from ranchers in Montana to the natives in Montana to people that live in that vicinity, they're seeing things changing. What is your take on all of this?
Well, Linda, I definitely understand about being under attack by so-called people of authority and people who, you know, even if they have the documented paper education to make these assessments to say that we're crazy and everything else. But just to fire back at that, you know, I have a good friend of mine that had studied under a geologist who was retired. And this guy was actually out at Yellowstone himself measuring seismic activity. And he had 2 other colleagues of his that was measuring the gases out there. And so, you know, it's a lot of my stuff is second and third party, but it is by people who are accredited in that field. So, but yeah, I mean, anybody, I mean, it's just all over the place, but it's turned into some wild, you know, conspiracy theory, doomsayer thing. And it's really not like that at all. I mean, you're seeing, it's proven that we've been seeing ground deformation for a long time. Earthquake swarms. It's been proven that they've been pulling certain earthquakes, whether they be, you know, at a magnitude 3.0 or whatever, they've been pulling them off the USGS sites. They've been...
I've read that too. Yep.
Sure. But just the gas measurements out at Yellowstone that was taken just recently, where they've taken high measurements of hydrogen sulfide and sulfur dioxide. And these are found before any type of eruption. High levels are found before eruptions in any other type of volcanoes. But the difference is you're dealing with a super volcano. That's the huge difference here.
And isn't it my understanding that the last time this volcano erupted was 640,000 years ago?
Yeah,
100,000 years ago, excuse me.
Yes, yeah, it was 640,000 years ago, and erupts on average every 600,000 years because you had the Mesa Falls Yellowstone eruption, and you had the Huckleberry Ridge and the Lava Creek eruption. And yeah, it's on average every 600,000 years. So we're 40,000 years overdue. Oh, I got to pause here.
Uh-oh.
You there, Lynn?
She's there, but I think she's having a little technical difficulty with her mic.
Okay.
Okay. I apologize about that. It happens sometimes. Let me just go to a quick commercial, and she'll be right back. She's just having I think it's just a mic issue. It happens. I apologize.
That's okay.
you still with me?
Yes, I'm here. They haven't got me yet.
All right, let's take up where we left off. We were talking about supervolcanoes, and that's what Yellowstone is, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Well, that's kind of scary. You know, what's funny is some of the scientists aren't reporting on this, and it's my understanding that, you know, that steam that we see that seeps up from Yellowstone. I've never been to Yellowstone. It was actually on my bucket list, but I don't know if I'm too late or not. But helium is leaking up out of that. That's what's inside the steam. It's not just plain old steam.
Yes, the helium-4. There was a lot of people covering that for a while, and I did something on that a while back. But I think I'm even more concerned about the hydrogen sulfide and the sulfur dioxide. That is an extreme issue there. What a lot of people don't understand is that the difference between your cone-shaped volcano, like the central casting volcano, versus a super eruption. And it's all about cubic kilometers of material that gets shot up into our atmosphere. And even with just the cone type of eruption, I mean, it was Mount Pinatubo, I believe it was, in the Philippines in like 1991, around that time. And that changed our climate. And that's just a regular eruption. That changed our climate for, I think, 5 years and took a serious toll on the breadbasket of the world, you know, which is the United States.
Right. And that happened like in the 1800s, right? Or was that farther back?
No, actually, Mount Pinatubo, its last eruption was in 1991 in the Philippines.
Oh, wow. Okay. My mistake. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and it actually affected our climate for around 2 or 3 years with a cooling cycle.
Well, it's very scary that the USGS only, I mean, if they were to post and capture every single earthquake, it would be extremely disturbing, I would say, to the very least.
Yeah, and also, you know, the 4.9 that was at Yellowstone recently, you know, they could not hide that at all. I mean, there's just no way, because if they can cover something up, they're going to definitely try. But
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and the problem is that's where the problem lies. You can't get real information because people out here, the general public, are going to freak out. If they make a statement, it'd be the same as a near-Earth object that's heading towards Earth. That could cause certain crisis. Everybody just goes into panic mode. They're going to go empty the store shelves out. It would be chaos everywhere. They would almost have no other choice but to try to declare martial law.
I believe that. I think our government knows a lot more than what they're saying, especially with Yellowstone. I think that the higher up, the elites, as I call them, know that this is a ticking time bomb, and that's why I'm seeing all these FEMA camps going up and weird trucks full of like shelters for people to stay in. It's interesting, but they know a lot more than they are letting on to.
Oh, absolutely, and the problem there is, you know, a lot of people, they talk about the FEMA camps, but again, I inform them that costs money. I mean, when you have all these people, if you evacuate, you know, millions of people, it's going to cost money to feed them, unless there's some other type of agenda going on there. And me personally, I really don't, I can say I am not going to be the one that takes my family to evacuate anywhere, not to some government-run installation anyhow.
I hear you. I know that I'm not as prepared as you, Tom, but like you said, we have to have a plan. And I do have a plan, but I won't go to those either. I have tons of camping gear, and through the years I've been accumulating more and more of it so that at least I can camp and make my own campground. But
sure.
I won't be going to those government installations either.
Yeah. You know, and I try to urge people that, you know, to have a serious plan, because it's coming. Something's coming. Even if it's not Yellowstone, but I always try to take that and say, well, if you prepare for Yellowstone, then you'll be pretty much prepared for anything.
Well, that's very true. We're seeing all kinds of interesting things. There's so many things going on, Tom, I don't know where to begin, and I don't want to jump all around to all different things, but Yellowstone is a big one, and everyone must keep their eye on Yellowstone. You said have a plan and prepare. What do you mean by that? For the people out there that don't understand what that means, can you explain a little bit about what that means?
Sure, and unfortunately, we are dealing with a super eruption, which I mean, it would be catastrophic, not only for the United States but for the entire world. I mean, this would be a global event, and you're going to need shelter. You're going to have somewhere to shelter in place for quite some time. I mean, you're looking at possible 2 months before some kind of torrential rains will come in and wash that ash cloud out, at least enough so that you can breathe. You can come outside and breathe where it won't be in your lungs. But you're going to need some type of shelter, preferably underground. And I hear a lot of people saying to go to the Arkansas, Missouri Ozarks. And I got to say, I don't agree with that plan, because that area is probably going to be buried under 15 feet of ash after a super eruption like Yellowstone. But another thing you're going to need is you're going to need a lot of water. That's the rudimentary element of life, water. So people out there now, that's just, whatever you can do to store water, just store it away. Food, seeds. You're going to need weapons. Unfortunately, there's people out there that doesn't prepare. Maybe there's someone like your neighbor who, maybe has a gun laying around and he has a couple of boxes of ammo, and once he realizes that it's a very serious situation, I mean, he may come and try to take what you have because his family's going to do without.
That's very true. That's why I'm all for my Second Amendment rights and everyone else's. I know the gun issue is a touchy subject in this country, and yeah, there are a lot of crazies that can go buy guns, but to try and take guns out of the hands of every single American, I couldn't tell you right this minute, but I'd research it. There are about 4 or 5 nations that has happened to, and their government just obliterated them.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We have to learn from our history.
You know what I get a lot of too, Linda? I get a lot of this. Well, if something like that happens, you're never going to survive a super volcano eruption. If that happens, a lot of people say they're just going to walk outside and let it obliterate them and take them away. Well, I tend to disagree, and I try to talk to people about this, because Toba, off the island of Sumatra, Toba is a supervolcano. It erupted 74,000 years ago, and this was after the Lava Creek eruption from Yellowstone. Now, and Toba was actually larger as far as cubic kilometers of ash that went up into the atmosphere, and the stratosphere encircled the dwelling. Now, people survived Toba with less means than we would ever think about having. I mean, we have such technology nowadays, and I mean, these people were living in the bush. They were very primitive. And there was maybe, I think, like 6,000 or 7,000 survivors of Toba, but they survived. So for people to say that, oh, you'll never survive a super eruption with all the means and ways we have to prepare today, I mean, I disagree strongly.
And they were right in, I don't want to call it the kill zone, but they were right in the epicenter of the eruption, correct? And they survived.
Well, I wouldn't think the epicenter, but they were in the African region. I do believe that.
Okay, so on the because I've looked at a map of Yellowstone, and in fact, it's probably been from your site, like the kill zone, and then the outer perimeter shows where, like, I guess what is that, the fallout?
Yeah, if you're within 500 miles, you're probably not going to make it. I mean, unless you're in a fallout shelter that's 15 feet or lower. I mean, it'd be really bad, and then you better have a really good air filtration system in there.
Yeah, that's it's kind of scary.
Yes, it is. I mean, but all the warning signs are there. I mean, all people have to do is, I mean, and I still say it doesn't even take something like Yellowstone, just as something, not to jump off subject, but just something as, as fragile as our power grid. And I would comfortably say 95% of Americans probably wouldn't survive that.
That's true. I mean, the solar flares and whatnot.
Sure.
there was a TV show a while back. It was a series, and I can't remember the name of it because I don't watch a whole lot of TV, but I watched the first episode, and I guess a solar flare hit the United States or the planet itself, and it knocked them all back into the 1800s.
Exactly.
That's reality, though. People laugh at you when you say that, but that can happen.
And what they don't understand, Linda, is that, when there's, and I hear so many people say this, well, I'll just go loot the local grocery store. And then I say, well, then what? Because once all the food's gone, nothing else is coming. I mean, there's no water coming out of municipal taps. You can't flush your toilet. There's no,
no.
You're not going to call the police and say, hey, somebody's kicking my door. And the police officers are going to be, they're going to be leaving posts. They're going to be protecting their own family.
Yeah, so every man for himself is what it's going to be like. And you have to, I know I could speak only for myself. I've stockpiled a lot of dry goods, a lot of beans and rice and stuff like that. I'm stockpiling a lot of water. Me living in California, especially the area that I live in, if you look on a map of California with droughts, we are in one of the worst droughts that California's ever seen, and I don't see any end in sight. So.
Absolutely, it's terrible, and I mean, I've been posting that on Bunker Report a lot lately, and it's a terrible situation because they're even talking about they may have to start migrating people away.
I've heard that too. In fact, I read an article where the United States foreign minister was asking South Africa, Argentina, and another South American country for some sort of relocation program for Americans. And Argentina, the South Americans said yes, but South Africa said no. There's no way that it would create some sort of a race issue, with Americans coming to the African land. I think he was turning it kind of political, but I guess we have some questions coming in. And Tom, I'm going to throw out a phone number here for people to call in. It's 1-607-441-6233 is the call-in number if you want to ask Tom any questions. And I'm coming up here. Can they? Oh, okay. We have a question coming in, Tom, through the chat, and it's saying that can they drill and release pressure? What can be done to relieve it? I think we're talking back to Yellowstone now.
Sure. I would have to say, I mean, and this is just my opinion, but because I've asked that very question to people who are knowledgeable on that subject, and I would have to say there's nothing they can do. You're talking about a caldera that is 50 miles. I mean, if you drive 50 miles, 50, 60 miles to work, think about that. That's the size. So in order to drill in to relieve pressure, I mean, you would have to have, I mean, who's going to manufacture this drill bit?
Exactly. Well, the other question is, and where would be a safe place to be if it does erupt?
If you're in the United States, I would probably say go as far east as you can possibly go.
Far
and
east?
Look, yes. And try to get some type of shelter. I would even maybe go northeast into Canada somewhere, if you have the means to do that. Me, okay. I've already made my preparations. I'm stuck, so.
Yeah, I know. And it's me living in California. I was looking at a map, and even though I'm on the coast, I'm still, with no rain, I'm screwed. Nothing's going to filter out of my atmosphere anytime soon if there's ever a big one. But so you're saying the northeast is the best place to escape this?
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's a very high population. And the further east you go, the higher the population is. But you need to have means of some type of underground shelter if you really want to survive it. I mean, it'll be that bad, unfortunately.
Now, do you think it will eventually erupt in our lifetime? Or our children's lifetime?
I hope not, but it's just to me, it's the signs are all there, and I'm not one to kind of make dates or predictions or anything like that because then you end up having to go into hiding and all that.
Right.
Once you. Yeah, and I'm actually using, you know, my real name on things that I do, so I don't, and I wouldn't want to scare anyone in that fashion. I mean, I just try to, you know, people who are trying to prepare but haven't actually made that or don't have the means to do it yet. You know, I don't want to scare people, same as anybody releasing information that would cause a panic. But I mean, I tell people to please prepare, do something, because it necessarily doesn't have to be Yellowstone.
Absolutely. Have a plan. You know, that's the main thing, is have a plan of some sort.
Sure.
Now, shifting gears here from Yellowstone, there is something going on in the news. It's been going on for a couple of weeks now, and I've been following it actually on your site, and it's been fascinating me, and this is the sinkhole. They found one in Russia and Upper Siberia and the Yamal coast, and now they found 2 more.
Yeah, that is very, very unusual, and that's something I really don't have an explanation for. So, yeah, if there's any scientists that want to call in, or anybody that has a good explanation on that, I'm all ears.
Well, I was doing a little research on it, and you know, there's so many people, talking heads, so many different opinions. What I find funny is when a scientist, not that I hate scientists, nobody, you know, say I dislike scientists. It's just scientists, everything is logic and reason, and everything is by the book, and if it doesn't coerce with science, then it can't be true, and it's a figment of one's imagination. On and on it goes. But these sinkholes, I mean, they're like 160 to 280 feet deep. Now, the scientists are saying that it's probably the permafrost, and because of climate change, the frost is melting and releasing gas, and the possibility of the gas mixing with oxygen, H2O, and other elements is creating these holes. What's your take on that? I mean, have you heard that before?
You know, no, and then everything seems to deal around climate change anymore, but my question with that would be from the inside out. I mean, I have heard the, you know, natural gas explosion theory where, you know, natural gas areas are blowing out, but it's something I haven't had a chance to really deeply research yet. So I don't know. I really couldn't give an opinion on that one.
Oh, interesting. Well, there's a guy named Vladimir Rovanovsky. He's a geophysicist who studies permafrost at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. He's stating the sinkholes are pits in the ground formed when water falls to a drainway. A trio of mysterious gaping holes in northern Siberia has spawned many theories about the craters' origins that scientists have suggested that they don't have any concrete explanations for at this time, but they're working on it. I've even heard people say it might be alien.
I've heard that one too, yeah.
What's your take on that one?
You know, with the whole alien issue, I always think, and I talked to a guy the other day about this, that we would kind of be selfish to think that we're the only ones in this entire universe that, you know, are a species and are alive and are able to think. But I believe if there are aliens, I don't think they're going to mess around with us too much, because they're probably way higher of another intelligence than we are. I don't know, it'd be like us playing with mice and rats, I guess you could say. So with their technology, their technology that they have, they would be far superior and advanced than we would ever think about being.
Absolutely, I agree with that. I definitely have to say that the people who don't think that there isn't other life forms out there has to be a very arrogant human, because there's who knows, you know, what's out there.
You touched on something a minute ago, Linda, about the scientists, where you said that everything has to be right in order and by the book, or, you know,
everything has to be, you know, the numbers have to calculate, and the figures have to be in place, and it has to have logic, and it has to have reason. If it doesn't have that, well, then you people are just stupid who say this, that, and the other, because they're mental snobs.
Yeah, and I tend to just, you know, I completely disagree with that, because everything's being proven every single day. There's something new, where there's earth changes. I mean, you're having things going on in Yellowstone, and it's proven that there's been super eruptions. It's proven that we are 40,000 years overdue. There's so many other things. You just got earthquakes once. Tell me this, and I ask people this all the time, Linda. How is it possible that you could run a blog like Bunker Report on Facebook, and just every day you have so many different things to post? You couldn't do that 20 years ago.
That's true. The internet. The internet is a big thing. I mean, the internet has opened the door for a lot of, things, research. I mean, I do have all of my research is done on the internet, so
sure.
It's getting harder. I think that's why the government wants to. I don't remember the political term for it, but they want to monitor our activity on the internet. I don't know if it's I don't know who it is. I can't remember the name of the corporation that's doing it. NSI or help me out there in the chat room. What's it called? The ones that spy on us. I'm thinking
the NSA.
NSA. I was thinking of the airline guys. The NSA. They want to spy on all this information and all these things that are going on. They want to be able to control what people see and what people can't see as another form of, I would say, dumbing us down, keeping us uninformed.
Sure. Well, you do know that on YouTube, Linda, they have and other people with other channels have actually proven this, that put something out that's very alarming or that's very alarmist, like maybe something from Fukushima or something that's going on over there. They suppress your views for over 24 hours. If you're getting a lot of views, they suppress that for over 24 hours so that you don't make the front page of YouTube. Yeah.
I believe that. I didn't know that. That is amazing.
It's a form of censorship through, amazing.
Wow. That doesn't surprise me, though. It just doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. Well, they're also, as far as what you were saying about the internet, they're talking about taking over and calling it the Internet 2, which they'll control everything that's, all the information that's flowed in or out. Total control.
Wow, okay. Interesting. I have another question for you. We didn't discuss this, but you posted it on the Bunker Report, I think, yesterday. And we're shifting gears here now. I'm jumping from Yellowstone and moving from Russia, and I'm moving over to Africa now. The Ebola virus. This morning, I caught the Today Show and their half-assed Dr. Nancy Schneiderman in a great big fat lie. And when I was listening to this, I woke up my kids this morning because they're still on summer vacation, and I'm screaming at the TV going, "You're lying to the American public," right on national TV. The doctor that's on the Today Show said that the Ebola virus is only in two countries right now, Liberia and another country I can't remember, and it's under control, it's contained, and that it's only spread through bodily fluids. Now, I've done some research on it, and a report was saying that is simply not true. It is infected 4 or 5 countries, Sierra Leone, Guyana, Liberia, and 2 other African nations. It's infected, and millions of people are dying. And it's not being reported. This is the whole issue with me in mainstream media. Someone's reporting in the chat room right now, it's saying 5 countries, and Ebola has spread by air. So they're saying that it's becoming airborne. What's your take on that? Because I see you post a lot about that, too.
And that's the really bad part. And what about the woman that was on the run? She somehow escaped, and she's infected, and they can't find her anywhere.
And that's scary.
Yeah. So the main problem with this, and here we go again. It's caused for a global catastrophe. because once it goes airborne and you get so many people infected, I was talking to some people the other day again about this, where I'm like, what if you wake up in the morning and there's a presidential address that says, stay in your homes. As of 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the United States is under martial law. I mean, do you have the preparations? Do you have the means to, most pandemics, even some of the worst ones like smallpox or weaponized this or that, it would take a pandemic or even a natural one at least 90 days to run its cycle and burn out. Do you have 90 days worth of supplies where you don't have to leave the house, period? Because everything would be affected. And liquid petroleum, I believe, would be the mother of all dominoes, because when the trucks stop running, there's no fuel at the fueling stations, there's no, power anywhere. Eventually the grid's going to be shut down because of the enormous workforce that it takes to maintain it. The global internet that runs railroads, GPS, shipping supplies, food to your local grocery stores. It's just, it's another scenario where you better have a plan.
Yeah, that's very true. You need to have a plan. I have a couple of questions coming in through the chat, Tom, so I'm going to read them off here. And the first question is, what got you into this field? Someone's asking, what made you get into doing the bunker report, and what was the hardest part of your job, of this job?
Well, I guess I couldn't call it a job as much as a hobby, and I've always been into survivalism ever since I was a young man. And what got me really going into this, and it was when I met John through a friend of mine, and he started reporting so much on Yellowstone and what's going on out there, because he was doing his own seismic activity reports and everything else, and he's actually proved that there is a lot more going on out there than what's really being reported, and whether it be the mainstream or even on the internet. You have a lot of people out here that claim they know this and know that, and they know when there's going to be an eruption, or they know when there's going to be a solar flare. And these people, if they don't have proof, they're simply lying to you. Where John has actually showed me actual proof that there are serious changes going on. And a lot of other people, I mean, if you look into people like Guy McPherson with climate change, and just so many other things that are just coming down the pike, it's just all, just swarms us all at one time. And that's what kind of got me to, start posting on, or open up Bunker Report and start posting daily, so that we can get so many people in there and everybody trades information and shares information. I mean, I look through a lot of people on Bunker Report, and I talk to them all very frequently. And I mean, I have lawyers and doctors and just, you name it, people from all walks of life who want information and want the reality of a situation. They don't want it candy coated. They just want it right out there, real, so that they can make a plan for themselves and their family.
That's important. It's very important to do that. I have one more question coming in. Hold on, let me bring it up. I've got 5 screens running right now. Someone's asking, if Yellowstone were to erupt, would it cause like a nuclear winter? So back to Yellowstone we go.
Yes, actually it would. And even, like I say, that just the Lava Creek eruption, if you look at cubic kilometers of ash going into the atmosphere, you're looking at the Yellowstone Lava Creek eruption was 1,000 kilometers. Now what that does, what's different, is it goes up into our atmosphere and into the stratosphere. And the gases from that, this is the problem, it's not so much, the ash will circle the globe in our atmosphere, but it's sulfur dioxide that'll circle the globe, which is what causes a cooling period. So yeah, nuclear winter, yeah, it would be about the same scenario, but it would be it would be an enormous nuclear winter. And it would actually last longer than an actual nuclear winter would.
Scary. That's scary, to think about that. I can't imagine.
Yeah, when you talk about shutting down, growing seasons for 2 or 3 seasons. I mean, you need to have, at bare minimum, 2 to 3 years worth of food storage. And that's hard to do. And then what you're doing with the rice, Linda, and the beans, hey, stack it high and stack it.
I know. Well, I think when I was interviewing you before you came on the radio show, I was telling you once a month, not that I only shop once a month, but I do my major bulk shopping for the household once a month, and I make my kids get 2 carts. One's for the food, the other cart, I'm stockpiling water. And people are looking at me like I'm Noah from, I'm getting ready for the great flood or something.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there going, hey, we're in a drought here in California. You might want to, take a cue from me and start stocking up on water, because things like taking showers and washing your car and watering your lawn or doing something as simple as doing your dishes, it is not going to be easy to come by.
Sure.
It's coming very soon. I see it just with what's happening around me.
Yeah, and people need to learn to deal with less. Try to train yourself now to get into the habit of dealing with less rather than more every day.
Well, you had said you notice all people are doing are buying latest technology, big screen TVs, when in reality they should be buying, maybe camping equipment, something that they're able to cook their food outdoors on, something sustainable where you can cook outside if you have to, because it may come to that.
Sure. And I hear people all the time, they say, well, if something happens, I'll just go out and hunt. And I have to remind them, I say, do you think you're going to be the only one out there doing that? The last place I'd want to be is out there with 10,000 hunters, everybody running around with a 12 gauge. It's not a good scene.
You do, in times like these where you're going to have these events, you do have to have a weapon of some sort.
Absolutely.
Because not just, like you said earlier, maybe the guy next door didn't plan like I planned, and he's going to come and try and hold me up for my water or my big bag of beans and rice because he didn't have a plan. I want to be able to defend myself.
Yeah, so when it comes right down to it, the next door neighbor is going to come to your door, and I said this in a video before, and it's kind of scary, and I hate to say it now, but I'm just going to throw it out there. He's going to come to your door knocking, he's going to have a big smile on his face, and he's going to have a handgun down by his side. And at that point, he's not going to care if he's just taking a case of ravioli from you, because it's a case of ravioli his family will have.
Absolutely. Human beings who don't prepare are going to turn into savages. That's how I see it.
Unfortunately, yes, there's going to be a lot of victims, and that's a shame. It really is a shame, because I relate this to a guy named Joe Fox that I know. He said it best. These are the fat times. Now is when you can get out and do everything. Don't wait. When the lean times come, you might as well forget it, because you're not going to have that opportunity again.
That's very true. I have to ask this. Besides the stockpiling of the water and the beans and the rice and all that, I know that there are sites out there. Maybe I need to go listen to Axel Jones, that conspiracy theory guy who does radio, but someone was telling me that's the website to go to see. He has a site that says how you can buy, like, freeze-dried foods that can sustain 25 years life shelf. Is that something to invest in, would you say, or?
Well, Linda, I'm going to go into this here, and I knew this was coming, and it's something I cover a lot.
Bring it on, Tom. Bring it on.
This is just one of my theories, in my opinion, because I get attacked about this all the time, and I just kind of blow it off, and I kind of give them the straight dope on the issue, and I leave it at that. But you cannot buy survival. This stuff, when these people have these websites for the freeze-dried foods, they got to remember one thing. That freeze-dried food may last 25 years, okay, and it's not a bad thing to have a little bit of it, but that's going to cut into your water supply because you have to rehydrate this food. You see what I mean?
Okay.
And I tend to steer away from anyone that's talking to me about survival and let's do this and let's go to this website and that and join me over here and this and let's be part of my club and everything, and they want to sell me food. It's almost the racketeer thing. I tell people so many times, I'm not selling anyone anything. I'm doing this out of pure, I guess you could say, pure love for humanity. And why, I don't know, but there's some force that's driving me because, you know, I have children, I have a family, but stay away from the people that want to sell you stuff. They're selling you false hope. You can go right out and buy canned foods. Here's one. Go buy, if you want freeze-dried food or whatever kind of food to store, go buy a food saver with the food saver bags. Put your rice and stuff in there and you know, seal them up, put them away. I have rice that's been stored for over 10 years and it's still good. It's a forever food.
Okay, that's good to know. So I see. That's why I asked, because you know you hear all these things. You know, buy this, get this. I hear that. Have a plan. Get these freeze-dried things. But you know, like you're saying, you're just as better off going to the grocery store and stocking up that way.
Sure. Yeah, because a lot of your canned foods have have a lot of liquid in them anyway, and most of your shelf life. And I learned this from doing research into a lot of retailers and actually going and talking to people that are into retail and people that's up on the food chain and they're making big money selling food back and forth in the grocery stores, is that most of your shelf life is all bullcrap anyway. Shelf life is just basically like insurance on when you can sell that product. It's called fast-moving consumer goods, basically. They want to just keep it flowing so that everybody makes money. You know what I mean? So if Chef Boyardee, if nobody buys Chef Boyardee and it sits on the shelf for a year, then Chef Boyardee doesn't make any money. Versus if you rotate that stock and keep it going, the grocery store makes money, Chef Boyardee makes money. You see what I'm saying?
You know, it's interesting because they do that with the pharmaceutical company too.
Sure.
I used to work in a doctor's office, and we had a patient who was a pharmacist, and he says, I just wanted to fill you in on a little something. He goes, you know, your Advil or your Tylenol, he goes, there's an expiration date on it. He goes, pay no attention to it. And I said, what do you mean? He says, the shelf life is good for about 2 years after the expiration date. They just tell you that so you'll throw it away and buy more. It's all about making money.
That's right, yeah, because we live in what you would call an infinite growth paradigm. If there's no growth, then everything stops, and it requires the system we live under. It requires infinite growth. It's meet or beat last year, no matter what.
Wow, that's true though. You know, he told me some interesting things, and I think that also pertains to prescription drugs as well, not just the over-the-counter. You know, there's a shelf life on that too, and I remember last summer I had gotten bit so bad by mosquitoes that I was having this allergic reaction, and I had medication that was like a year expired, and I thought, you know, I don't really want to go to the doctor. I don't have the money to go to the doctor. I'm going to try it, and sure enough, it worked. It wasn't really expired. So remember that, folks. It's all a big joke, the expiration dates on things.
Yeah, and if somebody's trying to sell you survival, I would probably tend to stay away from that type of situation. I would lean more towards people who would want to teach you, you know, homesteading, bushcraft, how to grow your own food. People who know how to grow a garden from seedling to picking off the plant, and people who know animal husbandry are going to be worth far more than anyone who knows how to make a survival shovel or, you know, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, growing your own food is great, but if there's a disaster and the climate's screwed up, it probably won't be edible. You know what I mean?
But you gotta hold out as long as you can, and that's one of the things on the list is store seeds. Put a lot of seeds away.
Speaking of seeds, you kind of brought up a topic. We only have about 6 more minutes in the broadcast, but okay. I was reading an article about, it's down in Antarctica, I think. It's called a supervolt, and it's storing, I don't know who it is. I call it the Illuminati. Same as the government. That's one and the same, but they have a vault where they're storing seeds, and not just seeds, they're storing DNA of animals and plants and all these things that I can't remember where it's located. I'm sure someone in the chat room knows this because they're a pillar of knowledge right now about stuff. It's incredible, but it's the vault seed, exactly, and they're storing seeds. I guess they're planning for some kind of mass disaster to happen. Why else would they do that?
Exactly. It's the global seed vault, and if I'm not mistaken, it's in Norway.
Okay.
But yeah, that really, what do they say? The proof is in the pudding, and they just sealed it. They just sealed it off last year. I don't know if anybody's heard that, but yes, they sealed it last year. So what's that tell you?
They've acquired and accumulated enough seeds that they need, and they're done. And we just got to be ready for impact.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's and I try to. I know we only got few minutes left here, but I just urge everyone, please prepare. Do something. Don't be the one where your children are looking at you saying, "Daddy, why didn't you think of this?" or "Mommy, why didn't you think of this?" I'll help anybody as much as I possibly can. I'll do whatever I can. Just, contact me, get a hold of me. I will help as much as I possibly can as time permits. But, there's a lot coming down the pike.
There is, and I really appreciate you being on the show. And I want everyone who's listening tonight in the chat room, I urge you to go to Facebook and join the Bunker Report, because everything that Tom posts is factual, it's the truth, it's interesting, and sometimes it's downright scary. But it's important that we know these things. I would rather be someone that's informed than someone who's uninformed, running around, I hate this term, but like a chicken with my head cut off when, pardon my French, the shit hits the fan.
Yeah. Yeah, and and a lot of updates I do is on YouTube. If they go to Tom Lupshu, that's Tom Lupshu. Just type that in on YouTube, and my channel will come right up. I try to do updates as much as I can, and I chat back and forth with people as much as I can. I answer any questions, and I just want you guys to think and do something, because if something happens and you're prepared, you become more of the solution rather than the problem.
That's the key word right there. We want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
And there's 168 hours in a week. You're going to need people. And I urge you to gather as many people.
And this is not a political thing, because everyone, I don't care what party you're from, what party you represent, we all coexist here on this planet, and we're all part of one race, and that's the human race.
Absolutely, and this is survival, and this is love of humanity. That's what this is about.
Absolutely. Tom, it's been great having you. I would like you on again before the year's out. Maybe sometime in December. We'll schedule you again if you'd be my guest again.
Outstanding, yeah. It was a great talk, Linda.
All right, Tom. Thanks so much. Have a great evening.
Yes, ma'am. You too. Take care.
It was wonderful hearing Tom tonight. He's a pillar of information. I really enjoyed having him, and he will be on again. I hope my show didn't scare the hell out of too many of you, but it is the reality, and we have to be realists in this. It has nothing to do with conspiracy theories. Speaking of Earth changes, people are asking me, when is this going to happen? I'm not a psychic, but I am going to give you a date. I was going to wait till next week to do it, but I'm not going to. August 9th, 10th, and 11th. This is going to be, keep an eye on volcanoes. This is the energy right here. 9th, 10th, and 11th. I'm not saying it's going to be Yellowstone, but this energy that's coming on the 9th, the 10th, and the 11th is going to affect weather, tornadoes, lightning storms. It's called a Uranic phase. The planet of Uranus is the release of sudden explosions, the release of energy, Mother Earth releasing her energy. It could happen anywhere. I'm not saying it's Yellowstone. All I'm saying is keep your eyes and ears open for the 9th, the 10th, and the 11th. This is also a time of aeronautic disasters. And I can almost bet money you're going to hear something about Barack Obama in the news. This is not good days for him. Something major is getting ready to hit in that administration. You'll see. Stay tuned. It was wonderful being here tonight with everyone. I will be back next week, and I will fly solo. I will be by myself, and I will be talking all about Leo. I will give you Leo's full forecast for 2014 and beyond. If we have time, we did tarot cards a couple weeks ago. This week, I like to try doing what I do best, reading the stars. I have some beautiful software that I run people's charts on, and we can do mini readings next week. And that's about it. I've covered it all. It's been great. Have an awesome weekend. Have a great Friday night, and I'll be back next week. Good night, children of the stars. Peace out.